The Vipassana meditation retreat can be absolutely life-changing, but I want to be fully transparent that this is one of the hardest things I have ever done in my entire life. Hi, my name's Tracy, and today I want to talk about the top 5 challenges that I faced at my recent Vipassana meditation retreat, and more importantly, how I overcame them. If a retreat is on your radar, then hopefully this video will just help you feel a little less intimidated and serve as a reminder that every challenge is just part of the journey. So let's kick off the challenge countdown in no particular order because trust me, every single one of these challenges earned their spot on the list. Challenge number 1, the silence, but not in the way that you think. As a self-proclaimed introvert, for me, the not talking was not much of a challenge. In fact, I really actually enjoyed not having to make awkward small talk over breakfast or worry about filling any awkward silences. But in the silence, you hear absolutely everything else, especially in the meditation hall. You hear every posture adjustment, every cough, every sniffle, every stomach growl. And this in particular was a really big challenge for me because I have a lot of anxiety about my stomach growling and making noise. And I know you're probably thinking that's insane. Your stomach can't possibly be that loud. And that's where you'd be wrong. About 15 years ago, I served jury duty. And right as the prosecutor was about to have his like mic drop moment, my stomach let out the biggest growl I had ever heard. And everyone in the courtroom turned to look at the jury box. And I could have probably let myself think it was all in my imagination. But when we went back to the jury room, I asked someone in the room, "Did you hear my stomach growl?" And they said, "Growl? Darling, that was a lion's roar." It's been in my head and just been something that I've been self-conscious about all this time. Sitting in a dead silent meditation hall made that a lot worse. For the first half of the retreat, I escaped to my room anytime we were allowed. I wanted to hide in there and do all of my meditations by myself. But over time, I just realized that this fear of my stomach making noise or people hearing it is really just a fear of being noticed and being judged. And how I got over it was basically by realizing that nobody cares, especially at a Vipassana retreat. Nobody cares. Everybody was so focused on themselves and their own noises and their own struggles that nobody probably even noticed. And if they did, we couldn't talk. So it wouldn't even matter. It's not like there would be whispers about me or anything like that. So I was really able to get out of my head towards the second half of the retreat. And Vipassana, it's all about teaching you how to observe discomfort, and that includes self-consciousness. So that was something that I really had to work on throughout. And by the end, I was able to really kind of embrace my inner jungle soundtrack. Challenge number 2, the mental and emotional roller coaster of meditating for 10 hours a day. I went into this retreat having meditated for maybe 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes on a good day. 10 plus hours a day is a whole other ball game. And when I first started, it felt like my mind was this volcano that was just erupting with completely random, sometimes nonsensical thoughts. I swear one day my brain was like, "The chicken needs a hat for the party." I'm like, "What party? What chicken? What hat? Like, what is going on?" I started to worry that I might be going insane because my mind felt like it was spewing the ravings of a madman. It was just so many random thoughts all at once. Then on day 4, the emotional floodgates opened and I cried a lot. And then the next day it was just pure frustration. And then day 8, I was so angry at everything and nothing. I was just in the absolute worst mood. And Vipassana does that to you. It's kind of like taking a snow globe, shaking it up, and everything that was kind of buried at the bottom is now rising to the surface, clouding your mind. But unlike a snow globe, the goal isn't for everything to settle back down the way it was. These buried emotions have to come up to the surface in order for them to be released. And before they clear, it's like they're getting louder and louder. They're demanding to be acknowledged before they go. And here's the kicker: you have zero distractions. You don't have a friend to phone. You don't have notifications or anything to scroll. You don't have your emotional support snacks. It is just you, your mind, and your cushion that is somehow too soft and too hard at the same time. How I got through this challenge, I realized that this overwhelming flood random thoughts, random emotions. It was all part of this mental detox. It was my brain purging old clutter and things that I didn't need anymore. Vipassana teaches you don't have to fight your thoughts. Just observe them, let them be, and then watch as they fade away. And once I embraced the chaos instead of resisting it, my mind really did start to quiet down. Challenge number 3, the physical pain of sitting. Oof, this one was tough. I feel like no matter how fit or flexible you are, sitting for over 10 hours, 11 hours a day is going to be brutal on your body. You will feel a stiff back, you will feel soreness in your legs. I had a previous hip injury. And so prior to coming to the retreat, I hadn't been able to sit cross legged for over 15 minutes. And getting up to 15 minutes, I was in excruciating pain. So trying to sit for these meditations was a really big struggle at the beginning of the retreat for me. I tried every single position that you could think of. I even was like stacking up cushions and kneeling on them and straddling them and like using yoga blocks and everything. And I just could not get past this excruciating hip pain. And how I got through this challenge was in 2 ways. First, I swallowed my pride and I did ask for a chair. And this is something that the retreat centers will have available for people who really need them. Obviously, they don't want everybody taking a chair, but if you need a chair, you can ask for one if it gets that bad. But the cool thing was, as the retreat continued and I learned the actual Vipassana technique and how to observe each sensation as it is, I was able to almost dissect my pain in a way. I noticed it layer by layer, each subtle sensation, and was able to really start observing what made up this thing that I called pain. And once I was able to kind of disconnect the physical feeling of pain with the mental suffering that I was attaching to it, it really became a lot more tolerable. And by day 7, I was back on the mat, sitting cross legged for over an hour, and I'm continuing the practice into my daily life where I'm meditating 2 hours a day and I do sit cross legged for them. So it's really interesting overcoming such an intense challenge of having such intense pain where on day 1 or 2, I was worried that I wouldn't be able to complete the retreat, and then making it to the end and seeing the transformation. Challenge number 4, no communication with the outside world. For 10 days, no texts, no calls, no FaceTimes, nothing. You have absolutely zero communication with the outside world, which sounds freeing, but it gives a lot of space for your drama queen brain to kind of spiral and come up with all of these crazy scenarios. What if something's happened to my family? What if they need me? What if I won the lottery and I don't know? But how I got through this challenge was simple. No news is good news. They have an emergency contact system at the retreat center. So it's not like if something bad happened, you truly wouldn't know. They would notify you and you would be able to obviously leave and handle whatever you need to handle. So that really helped. By day 5, I started to feel a lot better about everything and kind of calming down. And by day 10, I was absolutely loving it. I highly recommend you take a break from the barrage of notifications that we get in our daily life. Challenge number 5, expectation versus reality. It's not an instant quick fix. I thought Vipassana would be this instant enlightenment moment where I would awaken and be healed from everything forever. And don't get me wrong, I definitely had moments of deep peace and I healed a lot of grief that I had been going through. But then the next day, I would wake up so freaking pissed or annoyed or irritated or sad. And it was just kind of this roller coaster of emotions. The thing to remember with this one is the process isn't linear. You don't just release all of these buried emotions and then feel great the next day. It's more like peeling an onion because there's so many layers that we have to go through to get to the core of it and to really release these deep stored emotions. And one day I would feel like I had unlocked the meaning of life. And then the next day I wanted to chuck my cushion across the room. And how I got through this one is just remembering that you don't have to feel amazing at all times. It's more about staying steady through the ups and downs. Vipassana meditation teaches you equanimity, to stay the same, whether you feel bliss or frustration, because both will pass. And before I wrap up, I definitely want to give a shout out to a few honorable mention challenges because while these weren't exactly my top 5, they still provided a little bit of a struggle throughout. So, the first one that I want to mention is the food and kind of hunger situation. You do only get 2 meals a day and they're very early in the day, 6:30 a.m. and 11 a.m. If you're a new student, you do get to eat a piece or two of fresh fruit at 5 p.m. and tea is available with milk, but it's not really enough to satisfy your full hunger by that time of night. The first few days felt tough, but my body adjusted pretty well and hunger became less of an issue for me. But I did still have some pretty vivid food fantasies. Another challenge for me was definitely the limited physical activity because sitting for hours on end, my body was so stiff and sore, and I really was missing my daily yoga practice. But the good news is they do have some walking trails on the campus. And so I was able to kind of do my little path each day. And it was nice to get out and get some sunshine, but I did kind of start feeling like a little hamster in a wheel. Another challenge was no technology and no distractions, no phone, no music, no books. You couldn't even journal. So it was just me and my thoughts. And wow, my thoughts were a lot. I started contemplating reading the toiletry bottles at one point for distraction, just for a break between me and my brain. And my last honorable mention challenge was the wake up gong at 4 a.m. Not so much the gong, but just waking up at 4 a.m. That is early. And yes, we were going to bed at 9 p.m., but it's something about, I don't know, 4 a.m. is just seems like an ungodly hour. So that took some getting used to. Definitely had some head nodding in my 4:30 block of meditations, but again, just like everything else, you really do adapt and get used to it. So those were my top challenges that I faced out of a Vipassana meditation retreat, but honestly, overcoming them is what made the journey so powerful. So, if you're considering a retreat, I hope that this gave you a look at maybe some things that you'll have to face at the retreat. And if you've been to a retreat, I would love to hear what were your challenges? Did you face similar struggles as me? Drop it in the comments below. And if you haven't checked out my video on the overall Vipassana experience and what to expect, I'll link that here as well. Be sure to subscribe. I've got a lot more videos coming, not just about Vipassana, but about spirituality, personal growth, and just becoming the best versions of ourselves that we possibly can. Thanks so much for watching.